Today on Spotlight, an in-depth conversation with Penny Baylor, the Executive Director of City Year Detroit. Her passion is education and youth, and she is convinced that the combination can make a meaningful difference in our community. What is City Year Detroit, and how is this diverse group of young adults working to improve student attendance, behavior, and course performance? Is it the answer to many of the problems that plague education today? Penny Baylor's enthusiasm for this topic will speak for itself. It's Sunday, September the 23rd. I'm Chuck Stokes, and this is Spotlight. And welcome to Spotlight. Our guest today, Penny Baylor. She is the Executive Director of City Year Detroit, and we welcome you to Spotlight.
Hi, Chuck. It's great to be here.
Everybody knows what the Peace Corps is.
Yep.
But I'm not sure everybody knows what City Year is.
That's true.
Why not?
Because we're relatively new compared to the Peace Corps. AmeriCorps was founded. AmeriCorps is like the domestic Peace Corps in 1993, just after Bill Clinton took office. And he was inspired and wanted to promote national service, people giving back to their country, kind of like the John F. Kennedy, ask not what your country can do for you, what can you do for your country?
Sure.
So Clinton, in his first year, got legislation passed through Congress to establish AmeriCorps, and that enabled programs like City Year to expand across the country. City Year and new programs to come up. So that was just not even 20 years ago. But City Year was 6 years old at that point and had been founded in Boston in 1988. And Clinton was inspired by that fabulous idealism and dedication of young adults. Our age bracket is 18 to 24, who really want to change the world. And in fact, the slogan, the tagline is, "Give a year, change the world." I love that.
You're in 24 cities now.
Yep.
Where does Detroit rank in that in terms of when City Year was originally founded, which was?
It was 1999,
88
in
88
Boston.
in Boston.
99, we finally got it in Detroit. And that's thanks to Virgil Carr, the late Virgil Carr, who was CEO of United Way, John Marshall, who was then the head of the Kresge Foundation, Dave Campbell at McGregor, and Gail Warden, who was then the CEO at Henry Ford Health System. And he became our founding board chair.
How does it work? Give us the nuts and bolts. How many members are involved? How many schools are you in? What's the real purpose?
Right. Well, we have this year our largest corps ever. We've grown by 20 to have 101 young adults who give full-time service, 50, 60 hours a week, from 7 in the morning when they're at their schools clapping and cheering to welcome the kids, make them feel wanted and needed and welcome, till 5:30 at the end of the after-school program.
That's a long day.
That's a long day. And
why such a long day? Why is that so important?
Well, because the children need role models. The children need relationships with people they can trust. And I have to say, most kids would not want to have me as their mentor with my gray hair. They'd want to have someone young and cool and wearing that red jacket and someone close to their age. So we call them near peers. So what we do is we take those 101 and we divide them into 11 teams. So those 11 teams work together the whole year, each team in one school, all day, every day. So they arrive there at 7 in the morning, clapping and cheering outside the door, calling the students by name, doing a little dance. And you cannot go through that line that they formed by the door without laughing and smiling. Even the teachers.
It peps them up.
Welcome them, make them feel good about coming to school, because we follow the Johns Hopkins research on dropouts. It's, you know, you've heard of dropout factories?
Yes.
Well, Johns Hopkins, Bob Balfans, who's their key researcher, famous, wonderful professor there, discovered 2,000 schools in America that produce more dropouts than graduates. And so he named them dropout factories. And 30 of them are in the Detroit metro area, 30. 20 in the city limits of Detroit.
How often are kids dropping out of high school?
One every 26 seconds.
One every 26
across
That's
America.
A staggering statistic.
One every 26 seconds. And he discovered that the early warning indicators of dropping out can be discovered in the data as early as the 6th grade. And he called it the ABCs: attendance, behavior, and classwork in math and English. And if you are seriously behind in any one of those 4 things, attendance, behavior, math, and English, 75 to 80% will not graduate from high school. So if you intervene and turn that situation around in the attendance and the behavior. Sometimes the attendance is because the kids are humiliated that they can't read, so they don't want to come to school.
Sure.
Sometimes they act
peer
out.
Pressure.
Yeah, and they act out with poor behavior because they're sick of failing. And if they can't read, they could be a math genius. You know that old word problem we used to do back in the 1800s, I tell my Corps members. Train A leaves the station at 3 o'clock going 60 miles an hour. Train B leaves at 7. If you can't read, you could be a math genius, but you can't do the problem. So we tackle those 4 things as early as the 6th grade, turn them around, get them on path to graduation.
How many schools are you in?
We're in 11 this year with a team of 8 to 10 or sometimes 11 each school. And they're embedded in that school as part of the school family for the whole school year.
They're mainly in the city of Detroit, and
most of our teams are in Detroit.
But not just limited, because I think I saw you're in Harper Woods and Phil.
Yes, Harper Woods, River Rouge, and Taylor, schools that are in the lowest 5% of the state. We focus on the schools that need us the most. The rest of our schools, the other 8, are in Detroit.
All right, let me get a commercial break in here. We'll come right back. We'll pick up. We'll tell people everything they ever wanted to know about City Year. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Penny Baylor, she is Executive Director of City Year, our guest today on Spotlight. Describe, Penny, for me, a typical day for the AmeriCorps member.
Well, the City Year AmeriCorps members come to our office, which is very, very gratefully in the Henry Ford Health System corporate building, what some people, Detroiters, call the Old Burroughs building.
Yes.
That's the Henry Ford Health System. They're our biggest sponsor, and they provide us with free space and part of their family. They meet at the office. Each team has a van. They get on the van and they go to their school by 7 a.m. or at least 15 minutes before the first bell rings. So you can imagine they've got to get from wherever they live to, that's on their own dime, and then we take them through the vans to the school. They arrive at the school, they're clapping and cheering outside the door to get the kids and make them feel welcome. We want you here, we're so glad. And then they go into the office and they call the homes of the kids who didn't show up. So they'll say, hi, this is Penny, I'm your daughter's Corps member, and we were working great together yesterday in math, and I'm wondering, is she okay?
So you're trying to make sure that the significant period of time doesn't go by
because they need to, if they miss that first period.
Because they get too far behind, then you're in trouble.
Well, some kids are always late for first period, or they just don't come to first period, or they miss the whole day. But if they're always late for English, they're going to fail English. So getting them to there on time is important. And then they're building a relationship with that parent, grandparent, guardian, whoever it is the kid lives with. Then they go into the classroom. We work very closely with the teachers and the principal.
So they're not actually teaching the class.
No,
they're
assisting.
Almost like a teacher's aide.
But they are there for the students, not to just go wash the blackboard or make Xerox copies. They're there to tutor a specific list of kids called a focus list, where the data shows they're off track in attendance, behavior, classwork, and math, or English. And they're giving them that one-on-one relationship time, which is as much mentoring and role modeling as it is academic help. But they're focusing on the academics. They do that all day long in every class period to the end of the day. And then when the bell rings, they create and lead after-school program. Now, 75% of them are college grads, but whatever they were great at, whatever they're passionate about from college or high school, could be a chess club or computers or art, music, drama, dance, step, cheerleading, you know, whatever. They create that program. And do you know there's so many schools that still do not have after-school programs?
Oh yeah, a lot of schools have had to financially cut back, and
they
that's
just
the
don't
first
have
thing that goes.
So they're there all day. They finish up. They help with a little bit of the homework. They'll spend the first 30 minutes with a healthy snack, maybe do some physical exercise, and then they do the stuff that kids need, positive role models, and they're building relationships. That is the key to the success, is the trust that happens. They see the kids all day during the school day, and then the kids want to be there after school because they say, Chuck is in my math class. I want to be where he is, you know.
What's your success rate, and how do you judge that?
We measure only with the data. And the way we do that is once a week, especially in our Diplomas Now schools, which I can tell you about. That's a real intense Johns Hopkins model. We meet every week with the entire team of teachers. So the City Year Corps members are there, the counselor, the social worker, and all the teachers. And they're going to discuss, Chuck, how did he do this week? And they flash up on the smart board your attendance, your behavior, your math scores, and your English scores. And somebody around that table if something's going wrong, we'll know what it is. And it may not be one of the teachers. It may not be the counselor. It may be a corps member who says, well, you know what's really going on is and it could be some serious problem at home, a tragedy. It could be I had to babysit my baby sister, or the kid didn't have enough clean clothes, and so he's humiliated. So the corps members and the teachers work together to identify the issue based on data, and then they come up with a solution, and they come back the next week and check in, how's it working out for Chuck? How'd he do this week? And they figure it out, and then they measure and move till they move the needle. They keep relentlessly trying to move the needle.
What do the students get out of this, and what do the City Year members get out of this?
Well, the students obviously get a tremendous role model, positive role model. That's the first thing we recruit for. Someone who has relentless dedication, who will not give up when the going gets tough.
That becomes almost more important than their academic success?
Well, they're all good students because we can choose from 6 completed applications for every single slide.
You're getting the best of the best academically, but beyond academics.
It's role model. It's being that person that you want as a role model for that child. Someone he or she can look up to and say, I want to be you. And Chuck, when they say, can I be City Year? And you say, yes, you can be City Year, but you've got to graduate. You've got to go to college. You've got to prepare yourself to make it in the world, and I'm going to help you. And you can do it. So it's someone encouraging them every day. Now for the corps members, it's a transformative experience. Like being in the Peace Corps, you would know that is. This changes their life forever.
That unique experience in life and seeing a slice of life that perhaps you had not been privy to before.
And the other thing is the corps members model diversity. Our corps is very diverse in every race, gender, age, education level. And sometimes that's the first time students have ever seen a harmonious, bonded team working together with joy and dedication. That's another part of the role model.
All right. We have to go pay a few bills, and when we come back, I want to talk money with you.
All right.
Funding, because I know this would not operate without the funding that you've got to go out and seek
Absolutely,
every day.
Every day.
We'll be right back. Penny Baylor, Executive Director of City Year, our guest today on Spotlight. Before I went to the break, I teased the fact that we need to talk about funding.
Yep.
How much money do you need to run City Year Detroit? How do you get the funding? Where does it come from?
Thank you for asking that, because we have to sustain the size corps that we have now, and the only reason we want to have growth is so we can serve more kids. 1/4 of our funding comes from the federal government. 3/4 comes from private contributions of corporations, foundations, and individuals.
Well, the lion's share.
In Detroit, yes, and even with this economy, we've been able to grow because once people know what we're doing, oh my goodness, they know that education is the #1 issue right now.
So that comes mainly from businesses, corporations,
foundations,
grants,
and individuals. So we do a lot of networking and relationship building and visibility building, and thank you, Chuck, because this helps with that, to let people know that we're out there and what we're doing. Many people, if you work or live in Detroit, you see the red jackets in the schools or out or downtown at Campus Martius or all over. But if you live farther out, you may not see them because we're serving where there's the most need, and that's in the immediate area in Detroit and on the outer edges where the achievement levels have been historically low. You know the story of the NAEP test where we had the lowest scores in the nation in the history of the test. This breaks my heart. So we are tackling that, and once people find out what we're doing, and these young adults who are so fabulous and dedicated, they want to help, and we have to raise the money.
And from that, you build community partnerships.
It's a public-private partnership, which I think is a beautiful thing. The government has endorsed this. The AmeriCorps legislation makes it possible. The Education Award, the corps members get a $5,500.
What do the members get out of this?
Well, during the year, they get a tiny stipend. They actually live on less than $300 a week. Really? Which is half
how do they do that?
Well, they go together and they get little apartments around Wayne State or wherever they want to live. It's very challenging, but it can be done. It's done all over the country. And they live on that stipend, but at the end of a full year of service, they get a $5,500 AmeriCorps Eli Siegel AmeriCorps Education Award, named after the founder of AmeriCorps. They can take that for 7 years and apply it to college tuition or loans or graduate school. So they get that Ed Award, but what they get really, Chuck, is leadership development, a transformative experience that changes their life forever. They become a good team player. They know they can make a difference. And I always say, if you can do it in Detroit, you can do it anywhere. This is where you're needed, and people will come here from other states. They choose Detroit instead of those 24 other glamorous cities. They choose Detroit.
What's life like for the City Year members after they complete their tour of duty?
Great question. First of all, just like you can imagine the Peace Corps would be a transformative life experience, this is that. And when they put this on their resume for college or graduate school or a job, it turns heads because they know, wow, this person has teamwork experience, this person has been doing problem solving, this person had to work on tough conditions, this person is idealistic and wants to make a difference. I want that kind of person on my team. At any corporation you name, that is valuable. And so they have an ability to make a difference in the world, and our hidden agenda, it's not very hidden, is throughout their lives they will make a difference. Wherever they are, they will be the one. We have a phrase that says, I'm ready, choose me. When they're at the PTA raising their kids and there's a problem at the school, I'll chair that committee. They know how to network with other nonprofit organizations. They meet people. The entire 139 square miles of Detroit, they're in almost every one of them by the end of a year.
What's the single biggest challenge that you face running City Year? Aside from funding, because
that's it.
I know that's
Raising
huge,
money.
So funding aside, because that's always there.
That's always there, but that is the biggest challenge. The biggest challenge is building our visibility so that more people will know why this is so important. Because when they find out that we really can get people back on track to graduate, and we can get them to college and they can be successful, that's going to change the world. That's going to change our economy in Detroit. Do you know that the government, the state, predicts the prison budget based on 4th grade reading scores? We know 8 years in advance who's going to drop out, who's going to possibly get into a criminal situation. That's wrong. It's fine for budgeting, but it's wrong to allow that kind of situation to persist. We have to turn this around. It's the future of our city. Who's going to run our city?
And I want to talk about that.
We want them to be educated.
Well, and that's a very, very important question. What's the next generation? Who is the next generation, and what will they do once that baton is passed? When we come back, let's talk about that. And let's talk about, should education be a civil right?
Oh, absolutely.
That's something ACLU is sued over
Yes,
there.
I cheer them.
You've been around education all your life. I'm going to get your opinion when we return on Spotlight. Penny Baylor, you have been around young people all of your adult career. 17 years with the Girl Scouts.
Right.
All the years that you've been with City Year now. Not quite 17, but you're getting there.
11.
11 years. You were a member of the Detroit School Board.
Yes.
So your life has been centered around young people. Is education for you the #1 issue?
Well, of course it is. I mean, we're assuming people have basic needs met of food and shelter. Those are critical issues. But in this society, it's changed so much over the decades. If you don't have a good education, your future is relatively hopeless. You could end up dead or in jail, or at the very least, or the best of those alternatives is on public assistance, which costs all of us money. And I always say, if people don't want to do this for the morally right reasons, do it for the economically right reasons. This can build the future of our city, build the future of our state, to have all of our children well educated and prepared to be great citizens, to give back, to be productive. So to me, it is a moral issue.
The ACLU has sued over this, saying that education should be a civil right. Agree?
Oh, absolutely, I agree. I'm not a lawyer, so I can't argue the constitutional issues, but I have to say it is an essential issue for every child to have a great education, for every child to be able to read and do math and be productive and solve problems, to be able to be employed and pay taxes and be a good citizen. And that's what we're focused on. But if they drop out of school, the alternatives and the future for them is horrendous. We've got to prevent that. So we are on the path of tackling the #1 issue, to me, in Detroit. #1, education.
Are you optimistic as you look forward, look at Detroit, Detroit Public Schools, just education in general, even outside of the city of Detroit. Are you optimistic where we're headed?
I'm seeing
given
more,
all the
yes.
debates over education all the time, you know, what's the better system, charter schools, public schools, you know.
It's not about the institution, it's about the kids. It doesn't matter whether they go to traditional public, charter public, private,
EAA,
parochial, EAA, nothing matters but that attention given to that child to turn around whatever issues are impeding his or her ability to succeed. That we have to wrap around services around those kids and to get them back on track. That is the #1 issue for our city and for our state. And this kind of program is a public-private partnership that tackles it and turns out young adults who will go on to change the world, who will go on to lead, who will go on to be public servants and role models for the rest of their lives. So yes, I'm optimistic, but it's a long road. For example, we have an emergency manager, Roy Roberts, who passionately supports this program. Our United Way passionately supports this program. Corporations and foundations, they get this, and we're measuring our outcomes with data every single day to make sure we're doing it well and to make sure we're on the right track. So I'm optimistic, but it is tough, and we need help. We need financial help. We need more people to volunteer to be an AmeriCorps member, and that's going on right now. We're recruiting right now for next year's class of hopefully 150 Corps members. If we can raise the money, we can bring more schools into our little cadre of families. We want to do this, but we need help from the community, and we need it now.
You've got a website people can go to get more information if they
Very
need it.
Very easy. cityyear.org. And a city year is like your freshman year, your senior year, it's your year.
That's where that comes from.
In the city, that's it, that's it.
All right, Penny Baylor, thanks so much for coming in, talking about education, talking about City Year Detroit, and
Thank you,
hope that
Chuck.
the next
You've
time we
been
sit down and talk about this, we've solved all the world's problems.
Oh, you've been a great champion, and I really appreciate it,
Well,
really do. Thank you.
We appreciate it and keep up the good work there.
Thank
all right,
you.
Thanks so much for coming in.
Thank you so much, Chuck.
And we want to thank you at home for joining us. I'm Chuck Stokes. We'll be back next week with more newsmakers in the spotlight. We hope you have a great week.
This Week with George Stephanopoulos is next here on 7.